morning you kind of heard Paul give the governance model, and part of that structure in our governance is designation on how different things come to be and the processes that we follow to pass certain things. And so within that are the committees, and then there is an order. That's my stuff.
Okay.
You can sit right there, no problem. So there are certain decisions that are made by committee, and then they are brought to the board, and then the board votes on the recommendations of those committees. So the planning committee is one of those committees. So currently our planning committee consists of Katie Gruhl, Josh Weichert, Paul Miller, Skylar Sears, Eric Montine, Jared Royer, and David Murray. And again, like I said, I am technically on every committee, but I have not been attending as of late. So did you just laugh at me?
No, but I probably should.
Oh, okay.
We're just pulling chairs back.
Oh, that's fine. That is fine.
Actually get the couch.
So the purpose of the planning committee. So that is always developing. So the planning committee in the past was in charge of helping the health program come about. So it's anything that's kind of long-term planning, anything that's 5 years out. Accreditation is another thing that the planning committee would handle. So right now, the two big things that the planning committee is working on is they're analyzing the board's goal of having a Trinity-owned building. Trinity made it a goal that we wanted to have the stability and security that we owned our own facility, because we felt like that would give us just roots and a foundation that we weren't having to ever play off the whims of what would happen with a landlord. So with that goal of having a Trinity-owned building, the planning committee is looking into the potential at our current location. With that also has been being open to seeing if God leads us to other buildings in the area that might be suitable for our school. It is including looking at, if we stay in this building, the potential upgrades to our building, the current lease that we are working on, the ownership possibilities, and all that entails. And then there also has been discussion on building a new building, what that would look like, what that would cost, and what those potential sites could be. So that's just kind of giving you, these are all the things that have been major areas of discussion since the planning committee was, we've had a consistent planning committee, but this planning committee now in its current form, these are the main things that they're looking at as far as that board goal of owning our own building. The other big thing that other things that are kind of on the agenda right now for the planning committee that aren't necessarily at the top of the list, the building is the biggest thing, but the board would really like to see Trinity have their own driving school, not only because of meeting the needs of Trinity students, but there is a huge need in this area. We're within about a 60-mile radius where there are no driving schools outside of public school. And so we see that as that's something that we can also offer to homeschoolers in the area and other people in the area. So that is kind of on their list. Also, agriculture expansion. It says greenhouse. I know we've talked about some different forms, what kind of an ag emphasis could look like. But that, again, that is one of those things that aren't high on the priority list right now, because you have a limited number of people that can do a limited number of things, and the building is the first priority, as I was in all the discussions in the committee meetings. So he put on here, what is the process for decisions being made at Trinity? And I forgive, I'm ad-libbing a little bit in this because I just got the PowerPoint and I'm going through kind of what I know and what he has thrown here at the same time. So I apologize if we have overlap. So the actual structure of the planning committee that is defined, I'll just let you know, Katie, Jared got stuck in Quincy, and so he sent me his PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm giving it. So this is Katie Gruhl. She's also listed on here in the presentation. So feel free, I asked Paul to be in here too, so you guys, since you're actually in attendance at all the meetings, can feel free to jump in and fill in things. So the planning committee basically looks at viability of projects and makes recommendations to the board. So kind of the structure is the planning committee we'll come to a conclusion. It will go to the financial committee. Oh yeah, she's gonna hand you out
I might have
these are the
somewhere,
PowerPoints.
so-
You're seeing the same thing I am. The financial committee then makes a financial recommendation, and I'm trying to development committee then would be the fundraising part of that process. So basically, if the project that we're talking about costs over $5,000, the planning committee makes recommendations, and then they are sent to the finance committee. If the project is under $5,000, the recommendation is made to the Trinity board for approval, and then it's referred back to committee. Projects over $5,000 are looked at by the finance committee to determine if there are funds available, and if not, how the project will be paid for. That's when your development committee kicks in on how they will be doing that. And if approved, the finance committee, I should have read the last bullet point before I said that. So it says if approved by the finance committee, the recommendation is sent to the board for approval and then given to the planning and finance committee or the development committee for fundraising. I haven't worked a PowerPoint up thing since college, so forgive me, I'm slow on my computer too. So it says, what has the planning committee been working on lately? So I'm assuming that's probably why a lot of people are in this room wanting to get an update on what's going on here. So looking at the feasibility of purchasing and upgrading the current building. I will say we are not ready to announce anything, but God's been moving. I feel like the building thing is a mountain, and luckily God can move mountains because we've been seeing some major mountains being moved. And so that is really what everybody in the planning committee is entrenched in right now. There's a lot of work going on right now, working with several local businesses to design upgrades for the current building. We did have a structural study completed by IMED Corporation and their engineering firm in Macomb that looked at the structural integrity of the building. And so there's also been a lot of looking into the potential concerns. So if you were at the town hall, you heard our concerns with the building, whether it be the mildew, different areas of the building that might have asbestos. And so these are all things that the planning committee has been working on. I will say right now, I think the planning committee is probably putting in more work than the board itself on this project, for sure. The board work as a whole. So this is the main focus of a lot of what we're doing right now is working through this. So that being said, as we're looking at what it would look like to own the current facility, so there are certain steps that have to be completed for possible acquisition of this building. And like we said, the asbestos inspection and remediation, if necessary. The structural study on the current building condition by IMED, which has been completed. And so that information, and then also consultation with a building designer. So as the building stands, trying to find solutions to make it so that it's going to serve us for years to come, and working through that process.
I can add, I think I can say it on the last meeting, the owner has remediated all asbestos in the areas in our segregated hospital building. We haven't done the harness room, although there's very little asbestos in the bleachers. So if anybody is wondering about asbestos, for the most part, has been remediated. We require a final inspection, but getting this moved a long way from where it was.
Fantastic. And then too, on this designer, they've been working with the designer, and I don't know if the mock-ups there's been certain additional mock-ups that have come into play. And I'll just say, this has been a learning process for all of us. I don't think there's anybody on the planning committee or on the board that hasn't learned as we're like, okay, can we build? Okay, what hoops does that go through? There's all kinds of regulations on the school, what the integrity of the building, all those things. There's all different kinds of rules and laws and everything, and it takes a lot of work. And I'm thrilled that we have a planning committee that is being so diligent to do all these things, because it is just a ton of time and work to flush out all these things. So steps that still are needed for possible acquisition of our current building. So right now, and I can't speak to exactly where they are because these meetings are kind of ongoing all the time. I got a short update on Monday, unofficial update. We have another board meeting a week from tomorrow. We'll get more information then. But there's continued consultation with contractors for estimated costs associated with different improvements. These improvements will be done either before, shortly after, or within a few years of acquisition. So the improvements that we are really focused on and have been looking at, I'm saying we, even though I haven't been going to the meetings, so forgive me. So a new pitched roof for aesthetics, and so basically they're wanting to do so, and for rain runoff. From what I understand, it's not just to make it look nice, it's very practical. The flat roof is very impractical, and I mean, we've all witnessed the leaks. So putting on a slanted roof to help on top of the existing roof to help alleviate some of those problems. New windows is a big thing. Updated facade and front, and a new covered entryway. An updated parking lot, as wonderful as it might be. That's on the list. And updated classrooms, new floor coverings, new paint, updated closet space, drop ceilings, etc. Those are all on that agenda of what they are working through. That if we acquire it, those are the things that need to get done fairly.
Is there, on that list, is there any priority of those, or that's just this is what we're trying to look at? And
so they've been, and again, here, Paul, jump in if but basically they've been looking with the designers. So there's 3 phases that they have been trying to lay out.
Yeah.
But the first phase includes a lot of these things, like I think HVAC is on the first phase. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You're on the committee too. I'm sorry. I keep looking over you. I shouldn't be doing that. So HVAC is on. So there's kind of a big chunk of things all in that first phase that want to be done. Sorry.
Yeah. So obviously, probably exterior and
exterior. Yeah. So there's certain things too.
If I assumed it was prioritized, but don't make assumptions.
It is. I mean, and there are certain things that can be done while students are in the building, and certain things that can't be done.
Sure.
So some of that timing is going to be fundraising. You know, the actual what the final acquisition of the building looks like if it's a buyout contract or if it's an outright purchase. Also, like I said, the fundraising and the capital campaign and how that rolls forward would affect some of that timing, I believe. But we are hoping by the end of September to roll out, that the goal right now is to roll out an official capital campaign that kind of encompasses all of that. So just like when Paul was talking about the board speaks with one voice and individual members don't do piecemeal, I'm trying to present this while being very, very careful to not announce anything that hasn't been fully voted on and decided on. So these are all the discussions.
No, that's okay. They were just listed, and I thought, well, I wonder what the first goal is, which probably
so the roof,
exterior.
The HVAC, the facade, the windows, that is all at this point in the structure of the phases. That is in that first plan.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything big?
No, the roof itself is going to have to be a one-time start finishing.
Yes.
But some of the others, maybe one wing in the school, and another wing the next summer. Even the 3 phases that I think they're pointing out in there, even those 3 phases may break out depending on just construction methods and schedules. Mm-hmm. We do not want to disrupt the school as far as education. So that again, once we know everything that has to be done on do, then we'll lay out a schedule for whatever contractor we're going to be doing a lot of work and see how can you do this without this sort of education process.
And to speak a little more to your question, Rachel, it does say new pitched roofs for aesthetics, but as Kea mentioned, the primary reason would be for the water runoff. So, you know, pitched roof is kind of a bonus in terms of it probably looking a little bit better. But when we do the roof, like Paul said, the facade, would need to be done at the same time because you're getting into so much construction. And then when we're talking about the roof, as we're looking forward to updating the HVAC systems, those need to go up on the roof. And so that's why it's kind of all lumped together. It's not that our boiler has failed or, anything like that. It's just these kind of all have to be done in the same phase for all of those various reasons. So.
And the facade, one of the advantages of staying in this building versus building a new building is there are, from what I understand, there's a lot of fire codes and firewall regulations that have to be abided by. You can't just put up like a pool building and turn it into a school because of the students inside. So one of the big advantages of doing the facade and the slant roof on top is we do not have to touch any of the current structures that are intact.
Fall under modification.
Right. Any more questions on that?
Can I add, this is just like the board operates with committees, right? So the board doesn't all sit together. Planning committee is no different. So although most of the occupation of the planning committee members right now is on this main purpose, we also have at the moment that we can't pay attention to this driving school, and that's just a subset. So if you don't feel like you want to get involved with the whole planning committee on construction, purchase, and everything else, but you are interested in a private school or the ag school, if that's started, you can serve on the subcommittee and not be committed.
Is there an official subcommittee for accreditation at this point? Okay, so that's on the horizon, but that's not. So that being said, so it says other projects the planning committee are working on. I literally have 3 more slides, so you guys better have some more topics of discussion. The driver's education program. So the board and the planning committee, it was the board first and then the planning committee, as we've talked through, we've looked through some different options for a driver's education program. We're still looking at what it would look like to go through the Illinois School Board of Education. We also have looked at and talked to different private driving schools, like what it would look like for us to become part of another driving school. One of the concerns with that is whenever we tie ourselves with another organization, we want to make sure they hold our core values. And so that has been something that is on the forefront, is going right back to our governance. Our governance dictates who we can really bind ourselves to because of our core tenets. And so that is something that we're constantly looking back and making sure that we are staying within, it's not just David, or Mr. Murray, excuse me, it's the board is always looking back at that governance, making sure that we're staying within that integrity of that structure, or analyzing, does the structure and governance need to change? But we feel very, very, and I will say, personally coming on to the board and then being called to be chairman, that has been my number one concern, is making sure we try to follow that governance to the best of our ability and honor the time. I mean, if you read that, I read that governance sheet and I'm a little overwhelmed at the time and the prayer and the dedication and the discussion it took to create such a document. I mean, it is very well thought through. It's an amazing document that just was very well done, and I try to respect that. And I do feel that God led that into existence, definitely. And so I try to honor that as much as I can. And that falls back to all of these things, that we're always taking these things back to the governance and making sure that it stays within that governance. And then the other thing we looked at is starting our own driving school. As you can imagine, there's different things with costs, owning a car, having teachers, getting teachers certified, all kinds of rules and regulations that need to be done. So there's just a lot of stuff that has to get flushed out with that. And there's pluses, there's good and bad to all of those options. But that is something that we are currently, or the planning committee is looking at. And it says the goal of the planning committee is to have a recommendation offered the classroom portion of driver's ed by January of 2026 to the board. So that's wonderful. I didn't know that. And I will say, for those of you who knew Allison McEwen, her memorial money that was donated, the board has decided to earmark that for the driving school. We think that's something that would have been really important to her. And they drove their sons all the way to Peoria after Trinity every day for 6 weeks to do driving school. So we do have some money set back earmarked for that, so we can do that coming up. So what do we need from you, the families of Trinity Academy? So basically, we need volunteers for everything. You know, I think the beautiful thing of what came out of last year and all these discussions and things that came up, that it is, I mean, a board of 6 people can't do all 4. And so we need these committees to be thriving. We need them. We need people stepping up and being a part of that. So all the different committees, if you have a gift for business or finance, the finance committee, you do not have to be, like Paul said, you don't have to be a board member to be on a committee. So right now, the finance committee is myself, Paul, Mr. Murray, and our treasurer, Jason Chatterton. And those are the people that are steadily at that committee. So we can always use more voices. That committee doesn't meet a lot. Gosh, do we even meet 4 times a year? 3 or 4 months, and then we email occasionally. But the big thing is, you know, the budget and all those kinds of things are what that focuses on. So it's not a heavy commitment, but there's a need. It says if you have a gifting of being a dreamer or realist, we need you on the planning committee. And again, like Paul said, maybe the building's not your thing, or maybe you think you have a passion for the driving school, or you have a passion for the accreditation part. All these things just take a lot of man hours, just a lot of time and researching. And you're not on your own, and you're not making decisions on your own. You're finding that information. You're, coming in as a group, discussing and doing it prayerfully. If you know much about construction or have somebody in your household, that is, we could use the knowledge and ability in the future. So I don't see the development committee on here. I'm going to throw a pitch into that too. But yeah, as you can imagine, so here's a lot of ifs. If we negotiate and buy the building, if we have to do a huge capital campaign to do the funding, if we need to create the materials for a capital campaign, if we need to sit down and have meetings to talk about funding and money, if we need hands-on labor that's just coming and willing to throw in, if we need help finding resources for the materials to do the projects. There are so many aspects and avenues that maybe would take 5 hours or maybe take 100 hours. But there is just a lot of need. I think we're all here because we're passionate about the school and we want to see it do well. And I know we've all had a lot of feelings and hopes and dreams on what it is and what it'll become and where it'll be and what it'll look like. We need people to help us get us there. And again, it could be, like I said, if you're not construction minded, maybe you have a passion for writing grants. We would love a grant writer that just would love to write grants for us. That would be phenomenal. Maybe you have contacts to help with wholesale buildings costs that we need for windows, floor coverings, ceiling tiles, HVAC. And again, the development committee, if you just are willing to sit down and talk to people about the school, if you love sitting and designing materials, we're going to be looking and needing some fantastic marketing materials if we're going to do a capital campaign. Sometimes it's just talking to people. So I don't know if you guys are aware, the board, about a year and a half ago now, because we pushed it off, we did our first donor dinner. So the board felt strongly that we didn't want to put another fundraising weight on our parents. But yet we had a budget that needed funding. And so the board itself decided we were going to try to ask new people to come. We wanted to get people who didn't know who we were sitting at tables so we could present who we were, what we were about, and what our future hopes and dreams and plans were. And so we had our first ever donor dinner. To be honest, it wasn't we did raise money. It wasn't a huge financial thing, but we had CEO of Mid-America, the CEO of Graham Hospital. We had all these people that came, were like, wow, I had no idea what you were about. I will know next time, and I will tell people next time. Huge supporters. Matt Rauschert came to that. And he was so excited that he became a teacher, and he taught design class here. He and his father taught creative writing and poetry, which I would not guess that's what Mark would have taught. But they came in and taught for free and added electives. And so there was a lot of neat things that happened out of that donor dinner that weren't necessarily financial related, but they were great community things and laying that groundwork. We are having another donor dinner on the 12th. I just did the invitations. Friday the 12th of September. Is this 12th of Friday? Okay. Friday the 12th of September, we have it at Maple Avenue. If you know somebody that you think, so what we do is we do tables of 8. It's $25 a seat. We tend to go out and ask people to fill the table. But if you know of people that you would like to see come, and we talk about, we do an introduction of who we are. Amy Howard is our speaker this year. We have found that our students are our most passionate and greatest representatives of who we are. We did a video last year. Scott put together a fabulous video and did all these interviews with students about Trinity. And that's what the speakers were great. Valletta spoke, and I did my best. But it was that video of our students that really just moved people. It's the same when we've had the Tracy Family Foundation come here. They've supported us in the past, which is wonderful, and they came through and they just literally stopped a couple logic or rhetoric students in the hall and asked them questions, and they left that room and they said, that is who should be talking about Trinity. That is who your best representatives are, because our students that we're turning out, it's phenomenal. And I'm going a little off topic here, but even the CEO program, that's McDonough County CEO, I have through the coffee house, I've done presentations for them a few years, and she sees the kids that come out of Trinity that are those rhetoric students, and she's floored. She's like, there is something about those students. They know how to speak well. They know how to carry themselves well. They are eloquent. They're not afraid of these discussions. They are the leaders, and that is who we want to get in front of the people in the community to know who we are. And that's how it's going to tie all back in to making the school thrive, be able to make these plans come to fruition. So if you would be willing to hand out some of those invitations and fill some tables, there's a box of them in David's office. That's coming up very quickly. But that is another thing you could do to support the board and all of the committees. And again, here it says, if you have a gift for leadership with spiritual discernment, we need you on the Trinity board. I did my little plug this morning. There's no requirement except for having a heart and calling. If you love the school and you feel called to be a part of it, we ask you to be prayerful. We ask you to follow the Lord's leading and be faithful to Him, because He is the owner. He is the one that we are constantly trying to serve and find the will. Seek His will, and we do. It's sometimes stressful, but at the end of the day, we're a tight group, and we enjoy each other, and have just a wonderful amount of respect for one another. Because I believe every single person on that board has been specifically called, and I love them all. They're very dear to me, and it's beautiful to see what God can do with a tight group of believers that have no agenda but to serve Him. So at the last slide, if you have a calling in any of these areas or know somebody that does have them, you can reach out to myself or Mr. Murray or Jared, who just snuck in the back here and is hiding behind the curtain while I finish his PowerPoint on here. So that is all I have. Are there any questions?
Are staff members allowed to be on the committees?
Staff can be on the committee. Staff just can't be on the board because of the hierarchy. The board hires the administrator and the administrator hires the staff, so you can't have the staff do that circle. But they can be on committees. Do you have anything else you want to throw in, Jared?
I don't think so. I'm assuming you think.
Or any of the other planning committee members? Anything else that you'd like?
Now, this, again, if it's the overall picture of the planning committee is a little too overwhelming, you want to get into it, you don't have to be important for help with aesthetics, interior design, some aspects of the overall building design, or get on the driving thing, and once we get to accreditation and some ag systems, those are gonna be kind of separate subcommittees. So just make your wishes known, it can be the can, but primarily get it to Jared, because he hasn't committed, he's always gonna be looking for help.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of opportunities. You have a gifting at one thing and say, oh, I can help on this project. Well, it's like I had a conversation yesterday with somebody that said, hey, you know what? I'm a crane operator. Would have been someone I would have never expected. That can come and take a lot of money off, the roof. So it may be a gifting or a skill set that you wouldn't even think about, or a spouse or a brother or something that there's just a lot of people that would have a lot of skills and knowledge and stuff that we don't know. The Lord can use those to really help with a lot of projects that are going on.
And you don't have to be on the committee either.
Yeah.
If you just say, hey, when you get to this part of this project, I'd be happy to do this thing. So we tend to not turn down help.
You mentioned the Tracy Family Foundation. Has the school actively been seeking out grants with its 501 3C status?
With
Any, and with that status, you guys get opportunities there.
we do. So there have been, we have looked at different grants. Again, right now, grant writers, in fact, Mr. Murray, I have a lot of conversations with him. I get too casual. Mr. Murray, as it stands right now, so we were close to hiring a development director. So we'd like to have a development director eventually who can head the development committee and kind of head up all these things. And honestly, he had a list of grants that he's like, hey, they can hit the ground running, all of these things that we can apply for, but we need somebody to write them. So he can do some. So he's done all the Tracy Family Foundation, but grant writing is time consuming and there is an art to it, to a point. And so we would love a grant writer. So yes, we try to do as many as we can, but there's more out there that I'm sure there's funds that we could get if we had the manpower to ask and for the money and write grants. And when we do the donor dinner, we do some of those clues too. Like, hey, you want to come in and you can't write a check, then come offer your services, your time, your skills. That's what the Roshers did.
I was just gonna ask, are we still actively advertising for the development director position?
Well, we slowed because we had an applicant in hand and we were ready to vote and they realized they were unable to do it. So, not at this moment. And again, it's one of those things, we did do a lot of advertising. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the Herzog Foundation. I knew you have. So they are a group that a man named Sam Herzog left his multi-million-dollar fortune, and he really believed if you want to change the heart of the country, you got to change the heart of the people. And he believed Christian education was the way to do that. However, he knew the money would be gone in a flash if you just poured it into brick and mortar buildings. So what they did is they have this foundation that gives amazing support to schools, teachers, board members, administration, all of these things, kind of guiding and leading them and counseling them. And they have these sessions you go to for a few days. They pay for everything, all the materials, the hotel you stay in. You just have to get there. And they've just been an amazing resource for us. And so Jason's gone to their financial one. I've gone to a few. Anyway, one of their recommendations for a development, we've heard it over and over. It needs to be someone that you don't hire from the outside and bring in. It's someone that has already invested and has a heart for the school. So as you can imagine, that shrinks the pond of applicants quite a bit. So this individual is still interested, but they need another year, basically, to get things organized at home. So while I would love another application, we don't have anything right now. And we're not doing the external advertising like we had before. But it is something I will play for again at the donor dinner. To get somebody from this community who would be in love with that would be great. Oh, my time's up. Thank you all. And I mean, you can always feel free to ask us questions. Like Paul said, we don't speak, we speak as one voice, but if you're just asking about things that would be in the public information in minutes, I am more than happy. I return every phone call and email that I get, so. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.